Thank you so much. Unfortunately, when we come to these climate negotiations, the only thing we see moving forward are the false solutions. Carbon markets are one of those. And unfortunately, to really tackle the climate emergency, we need to reduce 43% of the global emissions until 2030. What is happening? They keep rising. They are increasing. That's because the big polluters have incentives to keep polluting if they pay for just compensating offsetting their emissions. And that is exactly what carbon markets does. It gives the opportunity to big polluters to keep polluting if they pay, and they can even get profit for it. So we don't need net zero, we need real zero to tackle the climate emergency, and that is why carbon markets are a false solution. That is also causing a lot of problems in the communities. This year in Bolivia, for example, that opened to the carbon markets, we had a case where 3 indigenous communities were scammed by foreign people that went to their territories, offered some money to have access to 500,000 hectares of their territory. They have even signed the contract and everything under the premises of the carbon market, and it was all false. Another instrument related to nature financialization and markets is the TFFF, the Tropical Forest Forever Fund, which is supposed to be a Global South proposal from Brazil and others, but it's really not. It has conceived 15 years ago at the World Bank, and it considers deforestation a market failure that will be solved if you put a price on the ecosystem, tropical forest, to attract private investment. And we think that the ecological collapse caused by capitalism will be never solved by more capitalism. It intends to generate $4 billion annually to distribute $4 per hectare to the governments that show that they are preserving forests. But is $4 per hectare really a good amount of money, an adequate figure? Of course not, because it does not recognize forests as a living system so fragile and so important for the planet. The TFFF does not seek to address the true structural causes of forest deforestation. It does not propose effective measures to curb and reverse extractivism in our territories. It is a mechanism for privatizing the forest finance. But if only 1% of the $2.7 trillion of public funds spent in wars and genocides this year could go allocated to climate action, 27 billion could be made available annually to really preserve forests, to really tackle the climate emergency. That's more than 6 times the $4 billion this TFFF would like to generate. And according to recent analysis from colleagues in the South, imposing a tax of just $1 per barrel of oil could rise 10 times more per year than the $4 billion the TFF is trying to collect annually. And it doesn't really prioritize indigenous people because it's proposing that 80% of what is going to be collected will go to the governments and only 20% will go to the indigenous communities and local communities. There are not going to be controls established to use the money received by the governments that could be benefited from the mechanism, so it's not going to be transparent as well. And many other questions arise from these kind of mechanisms. Who will be responsible for the debt created by this investment fund? What happens if the target amount is not reached? The fund could be liquidated if exceptional financial or other situations arises. It's a lot of risks only to have a solution. And this solution is arising because global north countries are not fulfilling their obligations. And as Mina was saying, they have the obligations to provide fair climate finance without debt to the global south countries that are facing the impacts of the climate emergency. Thank you.